So I'm sitting by the lake in Central Park. I just finished giving a massage in the Dakota. And I'm watching the reflections of the buildings shimmering on the water. Crickets or tree frogs. And some public music being played by some kids behind me on a bench. I wanted to reflect on happenings and thoughts and feelings as if I were writing them down like I once did. Somebody asked me today, do you ever journal? Or do you journal? I said I used to. He said you've got a lot of baggage. No, he said you've got a lot of stories. And they're weighing you down. I thought, I'm overburdened with stories. I gotta put 'em down. And I thought put 'em down like on paper. But that's kind of what the intention of this project is to tell all the stories. I have grand plans for it and I still haven't started it. But that's okay, I'm giving myself the entire year. And maybe eventually I'll pick it up and have some momentum. But instead of telling the stories of my life right now, I'm just going to tell the stories of right now, which I guess is over the last couple weeks. Feels weird to hold my hand in front of my face. Let me see if I can. Golden microphone. Silliness. I hope that's not too annoying. Yesterday on the beach, there was this guy from Bulgaria that I met when we were there a few weeks ago, or late June. He's a bit of a monster. It's weird to say, and I don't mean offense here, fat, old, and ugly. And I say that because I really think that's kind of how the energy he carries himself. And he's Bulgarian. I've never been to Bulgaria. I have nothing against Bulgaria. The word doesn't sound beautiful. It doesn't sound pretty. He's not pretty. When I met him a couple weeks ago, just sitting next to him in the sand talking with him, I got turned on. His bigness and his repression. I don't know his whole story. He talked about liking to go fishing and yesterday he was kind of making fun of me about how I got turned on just sitting next to him last time we met. Though he admitted having pleasured himself to pictures of me. Or he hadn't called me. He had my number. And as we talked, the flies were biting us. I pet him and I just tried to get through my objectification. The resonant heart energy of attraction. And I touched his face, and I said, I really like your face. And he said something disparaging about how he had an ugly face, or he's too fat, something. And I responded with I don't know, doubling down my love. Is that compassion? Understanding the suffering or repression is fear. And I said, no, you're really beautiful. I mean, and I really meant it. And I just caressed his face, and there's, I touch people all the time, masseur, and I massage people's faces, but it's very different to caress someone's face. Heavily clouded sky, late afternoon light. Soft wind flies. Sea, kind of dirty. Caressing his face. Admitting the obvious thing that we need to admit. I said, I want you to feel loved. I really like making people feel loved. I thought instantly I should just put that on all my profiles and massage websites and hookup apps and that. I just want people to feel loved. I want to feel loved. That's all I want. I want to feel loved. I want to make you feel loved. I want you to feel loved. We are love. I mean, everything else is just bullshit. I smiled deeply, touching his face, and he was bashful and happy. Earlier on the beach, I saw some big fat furry guy who I thought I had talked with on Growler recently, but it wasn't him. It was some other guy. Turns out it was some guy I had talked to years ago. He didn't remember me. He was on a lot of psych meds. He told me. I was petting him, and he felt so happy to just be touched. Rubbing him, massaging him, petting him. He was in recovery from drug addiction on tons of psych meds for all sorts of psych problems. I sat between his legs, massaging his feet, rubbing his thighs. He was somewhere between dripping pre-cum and crying. Talked about himself in the third person, said his name. Has trouble with intimacy, he said. I regurgitated something that I learned at the meditation retreat, that the myth of intimacy, a 3-page book by a meditation master. So many people complain that they have trouble with intimacy. They express their desire to somehow get past that. And we can't be intimate with anyone else if we can't be intimate with ourselves. And if you put down the phone and you sit quietly, set a timer for 5 minutes or 15 and just try to be with your heart, your mind, without being distracted by anything else, without just being lost in fantasy, just be with it. It's terrifying for most people, except those pure of heart. It's very difficult for most people to be intimate with themselves. It's very difficult for most people to be intimate with anyone else. People who are otherwise living very happy, functional lives and yet lack the ability to be intimate with the moment, with what's happening, with all the thoughts and feelings, with anything. I gave a massage to somebody a couple days ago that I fell in love with. He talked about how his healing modality that he operates in and does is all about helping people fully experience life. And I said, well, in Buddhism, the experience I had was you can be free of suffering if you're free of yourself. No self, no suffering. No self, no suffering. Baby out with the bathwater. The impermanence and emptiness of all occurrence. What arises passes away. The experience I've had in life is to live life fully. I get consumed by it. I end up smashing my face, I've never really smashed my face, but metaphorically, I used to say falling in love, you end up getting skinned knees and a broken nose. But if you fall and forget to hit the ground, as Douglas Adams said, you can fly. Somehow miss the earth and just keep flying. Spaced out in fantasy world, you can stay happy forever. Or something approximate. So I was like, yeah, the times I've tried to fully experience life, it always just, I make these delusional choices that in order to fully experience life, I have to believe in the human story, and I always get hurt. Late night musings in Central Park with Dominic Vine of the Owls. I always get hurt. If I'm there. I'm not very good at dodging bullets. Yeah, I don't know. I was told today that I needed to stop trying to disappear into the infinite and just be solid and be myself. And it's totally the opposite of the Buddhist teachings. Not that I'm a Buddhist. He's like, you didn't, come here in this life to be a Buddhist. It's terrifying to just be myself. You don't have to do anything. Just be yourself. I think of all the ways I've experienced life in the past that can be negative or fearful. And I'm like, well, if I can't just let it out and be infinite and not have to be myself, but just be a vessel of experience, which is mostly what I've done with my life. I mean, I've so often renounced myself and just been like, I'm just a vessel to experience existence, and any spirit that wants, can take a ride in this experience vessel person. But the idea of being solid and contained in the self is just like, oh, there's all this trash in there. It doesn't sound kind to say, but it still feels so like that old Radiohead lyric. I need to wash myself again to get rid of all the dirt and pain, but I'd be scared that there's nothing underneath. That would be fine if there was nothing underneath, I suppose. It's not so bad. The emptiness, clarity. I met somebody on the street today. Parked the bike. Went to go inside to get some medication. And standing outside was a very handsome man. To me, very handsome man. I suddenly found that I have a new type that hurts every time I see him. Muscular. Redhead. So many of them now. Muscular redheads. And it hurts just like the first time. Every time I look at them. Anyway, I see him. And he looks at me and we have that street cruise experience. That's so rare nowadays. Everybody's staring at their fucking screen and hooking up their apps. I gotta go get my meds. I'm supposed to meet somebody. So I go into the pharmacy. I'm waiting in line. There's not a lot of people, and I'm really anxious, being like, I wonder if he's coming in here. Does he work in here? I think he works here, because he was talking to somebody about a patient, or somebody was talking to him about a patient. I get my meds. I keep looking at the door. I don't see him coming in, and I go out. He's still talking to these people. Well, at least one of them. He's talking to two people before one of them left, and he's still talking to one person. So I make eye contact with him again, and I walk by him, and I stand on the corner. There's a white man. I could cross the street, but I don't cross the street. I ostensibly just stand there. Ostentatiously don't cross the street. Wait for him to be done, and I turn around and he and the woman start to walk back towards the entrance. And I impulsively open my wallet and pull out a card. I've been carrying around 3 cards for like years and hardly ever use them anymore. Who needs cards? You talk to people, you give them your name. I have a brand name. Everybody just type it in. You can find me all over the internet. Dominic Vine. But he was, I didn't, we'd made a cruising eye contact thing, so I pull out the card and he's starting to go into the building and I tap him on the back. And he spins around, he's startled, he's like, oh! And I hand him the card and I was like, hey. And he just lets the door close and he smiles really big. And we start talking and he offers to buy me a coffee, and I don't drink coffee, so he buys me some tea. And we walk around the block and we sit on a stoop and we talk. He tries to make me laugh a couple times and is slightly vexed that he fails. I tried to convince him that I do have a sense of humor. And I just want to touch him. I'm telling stories, he's telling stories. I just want to touch him. And I know that feeling. Just wanting to make somebody feel loved and to be loved. To love someone, to have the ability to... I saw a movie tonight about dead people called Marjorie Prime. It was much more heartbreaking than the play that we saw a couple years ago. And there's a line that's repeated in it a few times. Well, but that's very nice. Isn't it nice that I was able to love someone? I remember that other muscly redhead that I said to him one night, you know, all I want is someone to love and someone to be loved by. I don't think I said that. I said, all I want is someone to love and someone to receive love from or to be in love with. I don't remember, but that's all it is, you know. I'm looking at this guy, I'm looking at his hands. So obsessed with the hands, the redheads and their hands. They're beautiful, thick, strong, big hands. He has such beautiful hands, and the hair on his forearms and his pale orangey skin. His neck. The scars on his face. The light on his face. Pale skin. Freckles. Red, gray hairs. 53. Sweet spot. Married. 2 dogs. 17 years. Absolute falling in love. No kissing. Couple good hugs. Handshakes. He's got to go back to work, and the guy I was supposed to see, he was really pissed off that I wasted his time because I didn't go. Because I hung out for an hour or something talking to this angel. I went to this Tai Chi festival last week, and there are all these beautiful men that I would be very attracted to. But it was not a gay thing at all. It was very not gay. I got to be a covert, undercover straight guy. They just assumed I was straight. So they'd say things like, don't be a pansy. Not to me, but to other people, because I'm not a pansy. But some people would find that offensive. If they were gay rights activists or something. And I was so inspired by seeing people who had a spiritual discipline, a physical spiritual discipline. Tai Chi is a physical spiritual discipline. It's a whole philosophy, Tao. And A lot of them have been doing it for 30 or 40 years. I mean, they're fucking walking the talking. They're living the practice. And their hearts are open. And their faces are smiley. And it's a family reunion. It's a Tai Chi family. All gathering to remember their master who died in a car crash. So there's like a coming back together. Most of them know each other. I guess some of them didn't. Of course, some of them didn't. They didn't know me. I didn't know them. Everybody hugged each other and told stories constantly. Hugs first, stories always. Big, beautiful smiles. Big, beautiful men. Superficial traits that would just make me chase, desire. And there was some of that there, but I couldn't do anything about it. There wasn't any. I was describing it today as that, like, the energy that would turn me on would, like, go down my body into my dick and then bounce back up into my heart and just shine out, because there was no expression available through the cock, so it would just be shine out. On the second day I was there, I would attend these classes, and I was just bursting with love for these men. I love you so much. And it felt so good to not have it be sexual. Was it the last day? Maybe. There was a guy who was doing this art called Push Hands, which is a Tai Chi training, sparring type thing. So Tai Chi is martial arts underwater, right? If you've never, you probably have heard of it. And maybe you've seen, like, Kung Fu stuff. Well, Tai Chi is like that same kind of movement, very slowly. And you can still kick someone's ass and totally defend yourself from an attacker, but you train very slowly, and you're aware of all the connection energies. And if you do that with someone, making physical contact, you find the edge. And I've done this many times sexually. Projecting energy into someone's body, feeling the intricate reactions of their body. But they're not usually doing it with me. It's just me doing it with some person. So it was interesting to do it with someone who I would find sexually attractive. He's a big bear. You'd call it a bear. Big bear. And he had this intricate awareness, so to be able to feel this pressure. Another guy who, I don't know if I'd call him a bear, but he was a big stocky dude. He had been like a weightlifter and a cop, and again, amazing martial arts expert. The first day I met him, we were talking about something, and he was demonstrating some breathing thing, and he said, "Here, put your hands on me," and that's all I wanted to do, because he had done it to some other guy, and I just I want to put my hands on him. When I put my hands on him, he was like, "Oh, because you're a body worker." I'm like, "How do you know I'm a body worker?" And I wondered, had he seen my ad? He said, "Well, I guess it was the way you touched me. I don't know how you moved, something you said." And I was like, maybe I did. But I was just so excited, and I'm talking to him and getting all ungrounded, and he said, "Put your hand on me," and I put my hand on his chest, and he said, "Okay, good. Now just open your hand," which makes sense to me. My energy flowed. And he said, "Now feel my body. Now move your energy inside of my body," which, again, I know how to do really articulately and really adeptly sexually, but I've never done it like that. And he was like, "Whoa." He felt it right away, and I said, "Yeah, I'm really good at that." It felt so nice to be around wise elders that I wanted the knowledge from, that I felt they were living their teachings. And to feel a desire that wasn't just about sex or anything. It was this desire of the whole thing. The whole thing. Love shining. But I have no... Saying anything feels ugly. Well, a friend of mine posted something on Facebook a couple days ago, a quote from the new Broken Social Scene album that I hadn't heard the song yet, but the lyric was like, "The future ain't what it used to be, but we still have to go there." Something like that. I remember when Coast was dying, and we told him he was never going home. He was just going to go from that hospital to a hospice till he died. He's like, "Oh, that's great. You guys have everything worked out, but I have no future." He was on a lot of morphine. So he's making this revelation under some, like, weeks of drug haze. But it's something I think of often because it's something that I've felt many times throughout my life. That's great. You guys are all, like, becoming a famous writer or a artist or a nurse or a hospice worker or a tooth specialist. I don't know, whatever you're doing with your life. You guys have got it all worked out. I have no future. And not to say that I have no future. I obviously have a future. I just don't know where it is. I don't know what it is. I don't ever feel like a clear, like, that's what I'm going to do. I know that when I was younger, I liked the idea of being like a pop star or a singer or a famous writer like Stephen King. I remember I thought of that recently because I was talking with my friend in Vermont about Stephen King and being like, yeah, I want to be a writer like Stephen King so I don't have to work. And what I meant was that I wouldn't have to go to an office, check in, clock in, whatever. It's a lot of work to be a writer like Stephen King. And not many writers get rich. Not many anything get rich. Some do. It's not about being rich. It's just about living life and sharing stories that somehow educate and inform and inspire. I look really happy. I'm just slap happy. I'm so tired. I haven't slept well for a few days. I gave like 8 hours of massage, which is a lot for me. That was a couple days ago, and yesterday I was at the beach. And, hard life. Today I've biked around. Rearranged my energies. It's so silly. Crazy for love. With no hope. That's the weird thing, is that I have no hope in it ever working out. I was talking to someone on Skype last night, and he was like, "Well, have you ever had a long-term relationship?" And I was like, "Yeah, I had a long-term relationship for like 15 years. This guy totally loved it." What ended it? Well, he died. Death ended it. But I wasn't living with him. I wasn't like a partner. He was my father. I was his son. We were lovers. He was a wise elder. And a good cook. And a great cuddler. Even though he choked me sometimes. Stole the covers. Yeah, I don't know how to imagine having a husband or partner, family. Family, Tai Chi family, yoga family. endless weird ricochets of resentment and confusion, hope, desire. I made an audio recording kind of like this last night, this long string of non sequitur words like I used to write. Sleep deprived and tired. Just like in the old days. This is nice. It's kind of like one of those writings where I'm like, I don't want anyone to read this. I don't want anyone to hear this. Yeah, I don't know if this is useful for anyone, myself or anyone else, but I've said it. There you go. Just feeling things. Don't believe everything that you think. Don't get stuck in those whirlpools and eddies. When you find yourself pulling up negativity and sadness and pain and anxiety from the past, you're polluting your future with it. Turn towards something that's beautiful and peaceful, something that cools your heart, gives you peace and happiness, joy. And put your attention there, be with it. The towers where the millionaires live, around Central Park, the light reflecting, and the dirty pond covered with duckweed and pond scum. Something like happiness. Something like peace. Something like authenticity, something like reality. Something like rats walking back and forth, and plastic bags blowing in the wind. Something like taking a chance on love. Intimacy with the self.